for the most part, looking back at 50 years, you want to define or look back and remember the words of Dr. King. But far too many people know only the phrase, "I have a dream." And they lack the context and the full meaning of the March for Jobs 50 years ago, the fight to increase and raise the minimum wage 50 years ago, the fight for equality 50 years ago. Dr. Martin Luther King was the face of the civil rights movement, but anyone who knows of a movement knows that there are people behind the scenes, people who are getting people on buses, handing out flyers, organizing. There is a movement requires masses of people to come together to push for a common goal or a common cause. And I think that Dr. Martin Luther King is the face of the movement, but the movement is beyond Dr. King, and it's bigger than Dr. King. And the testament to that, if Dr. King was the beginning, middle, and end of a movement, that I Have a Dream, would have died with Dr. King. It did not, and here we are 50 years later talking about the dream and how to advance the dream. And although we may not all have a unified purpose for a march today, I think the legacy going forward of the dream and how to advance the dream depends on us each individually asking ourselves the question and trying to answer this question: what kind of world do we want to live in? And that, to me, is the embodiment of Martin Luther King and his dream, and the type of world that we should live in, and the type of world we should leave for our children, for what they inherit in the world. It's what kind of world we want to live in. And I think, beyond the marching and protesting and all of that was for a reason and for a purpose. And I think sometimes now, without that unified purpose, we think that nothing is happening in our communities. But there are people, individuals, who are making their blocks better, their communities better, by taking a stand and taking action. So I think the legacy of Dr. King may not be in a mass movement. The legacy of Dr. King has to live in each person individually.